in the press office, yes.
Okay. Well, she didn't call back and tell us that she wasn't going to be here. Did she just find out today she was sick?
Yes. Yes, she got sick.
Okay. Would you mind stepping out here?
What is it that you need, sir?
We're a press organization.
Do you have media credentials?
The people are our credentials. The people of Texas.
If you get,
We've already been that route. We've already been that route. It doesn't work.
Otherwise, we have work to do here. These are offices, and unless you can show us some credentials, you're disrupting our work here.
Okay, I called DPS, and they told us that we didn't need press credentials.
Well, I'm sorry, but we're trying to get some work done here, and I have many things.
Did she tell you that we would be here at 4 o'clock? Because we left a message.
She did tell me that you would be here, yes.
Okay, can I read this short presentation and then we'll leave?
I'm sorry, sir.
We're going to have to read it to a closed door, and it's going to be televised everywhere.
Sir, you can give it to me right now if you'd like.
No, I would like to read it to you.
Excuse me, sir. We have to get back to work.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, folks. Deborah Head did not show up. The acting press secretary would not let me give this to her, so I'm going to read this to a closed door. Can you get this governor's staff deal right here, Chris? With me today I have Jeff Davis, and I have Chris Kinney and Stan Gooch are here with me.
Wes Curtis, make sure you get everybody.
Okay, just since nobody is here, I'm going to read this to the door and we can run this on the air. Texas here, April 15th, 1998. We at Texas Best Seminars are here as free press to establish a rapport with the governor's press secretary, Deborah Head. Free press is the basis of this nation. Free press is the basis of this nation. We were told on our initial visits to the Capitol that Deborah Head. Just go ahead and put that still back up and I'll finish reading it. Or however you want to do it, doesn't matter. We were told on our initial visit to the Capitol that we could be arrested for trespassing charges if we returned. We were told we could owe the state $3,000 for coming to the Capitol to report news. Deborah Head told us off record that we should be arrested. Margaret Wilson, the attorney for Governor Bush and the people of Texas, hung up the phone on us for trying to find out information so that we would not be arrested. We are requesting that the governor's press office provide information to Texas Best Seminars so we can report this news to the people of Texas and around the world. We want to report news without being afraid of breaking the law. In order for the people to monitor their government, the people must have access to any information they need, such as open records, open files, and open public offices. We are asking the governor to reconsider coming on our television and radio shows to be interviewed and take calls from the public. Would you please provide us the state law that says the governor's press office is not a public office? We would like to know more about Governor Bush's being a member of the Skull and Bones Society at Yale University. There are reports that the Skull and Bones Society is a breeding ground for the Illuminati or, quote, the New World Order. Would you please provide the free press a daily schedule of the governor's activities so we can report this news to the public? We would like to know why the DPS would tell free press that they could be arrested for trespassing on the people's capital. As free press, we were told that we could owe $3,000 for coming to the Capitol to report news. Could you please look into this? We are free press, not video production. Now, Chris, if you would fast forward, you'll see the...
Well, I just want to say one thing about this. That is what the Constitution means by free press, but now you have to be licensed and have credentials. And then once you have credentials, then they'll talk to you. That means you're owned by some huge media conglomerate and know to ask the right questions.
We're free press whether they want to acknowledge.
Yes, the Downsides Government Conference and everybody at Access TV, whether you're Frank Morrow or Alex Jones, Greg Erickson, or doesn't matter. There's people up here who disagree on a lot of things. But we are free press. We're the real deal, and we're affecting change. We've had some significant victories in this town. I guess go ahead and start the tape again.
Can you start the tape? It'll show the DPS telling us to shut our videos down in a public forum. Never mind, folks. We're just going to skip on. This is a city council meeting 2 days ago.
Seconds to make a comment on what the Holocaust survivor said. She said something very important, folks. If you don't keep your leadership in check, you're going to create another Hitler. There are concentration camps on American soil as we speak. This is not fiction. This is fact. I just spoke with her. She's aware of it. With the stroke of a pen today, the U.S. government can suspend laws. They can take over commerce, take over industry. You can create a Germany here like that. As you're aware, the city of Austin is annexing land without the consent of the voters. Mr. Martin told me today that he would provide me with a law that states that they're annexing land without the consent of the voters. Do you have that, Mr. Martin? I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Greg Erickson. I'm with Texas Best Seminars. We are going to work on this and strike this law down to give the voters power. Mr. Watson, is channels? Are we back on Channel 6 now?
Yeah, I believe we're being live broadcasting.
Sir, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, you mean coming down and speaking? I don't know.
The press conferences.
I don't know.
You told me that today that you would give me an explanation on that.
I told you that we would get you an explanation. You not received it?
I have not received anything.
I apologize, sir. I'll make sure that happens for you today. I thought somebody else was doing it.
We've been taken off the air, folks. Channel 6, we've been denied the right to go on the air and hold press conferences. Do you wonder why you can't vote on annexation? Do you wonder why you can't vote on light rail? Do you wonder why you can't vote on the Holly Power Plant? Do you wonder why you can't vote on corporations getting huge tax breaks? Do you wonder why you can't vote on Palmer Auditorium? Beverly, can you tell me, will you, Mr. Slusher wouldn't do it, will you stand up for the people and say that you're going to fight suppressing democracy, which is what is happening with the annexation, and that you're going to fight suppressing information to the people with the executive session?
Mr. Erickson, as I have indicated to you before, you're more than welcome to come down here and use your 3 minutes to speak. Unless a specific council member wants to answer questions to you, I'm not...
We are the people, Mr. Watson. We can dialogue with the government. We are the government. I'm asking Miss Griffin a question.
I'm going to say her name. If you get her name right, it might help.
I know how to say her name, Mr. Watson.
What we might want to do is...
I'm speaking to Miss Griffin, please. Miss Griffin, could you respond to that question, please?
Mr. Erickson, your time is up.
A perfect example, folks. It's time to wake up.
Thank you for being here. Folks, one final comment. The city of Austin purposely turned down Kirk Watson's mic on that.
And they turned it up on the next person. I've
On
seen
the next person, it was perfect. So the city definitely purposely turned the mics down on Kirk Watson.
Well, look, they want to feel like they control something. These are control freaks. They're bending us over a barrel, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's go ahead and go to some type of clip so we can get Steve Lane in here. And then we're going to get into what happened in Waco yesterday, and we have some interviews again with Mike McNulty, the producer of Waco Rules of Engagement that was up for an Academy Award and should have won. It shows the feds machine gunning the men, women, and children as they try to escape the feds on tape. And then we have interviews with ex-attorney generals or former attorney generals, just all types of people, and my little speech up there. I didn't intend to speak, but they wanted me to speak. And also a confrontation I had with an ex-FBI agent, one of the negotiators. I mean, you'll definitely want to stay tuned for this. So let's go ahead and pop something in for a couple minutes to get Steve Lane in here, and we'll go ahead and start up the Freedom Report. Hey, Greg, thanks for being here, buddy.
Yeah,
well, hey, hold on for a second. Did you notice all we heard about was in the Statesman today was about Oklahoma City? You notice that bombing came on the same day as Waco. maybe that was part of the plan too, was to not let there be a rallying cry about Waco. The news last night was 20-1, Oklahoma City compared to Waco. Well, I believe almost as many people died at Waco that died at Oklahoma City.
The government did both of them.
That's right. It's well documented.
50 children died because of your government, folks. They were, David Koresh might have been a little bit responsible too, but they were both responsible. Children died because of your government.
I think the clip we're fixing to go to is of me chewing out the FBI agent. Well, whatever clip you're ready with. Well, I had this show pretty much prepared. Help Mike out. There we go.
Sir, what do you think about the IRS?
Church area where the families were burned to death, and I saw one of the FBI hostage negotiators, one of the slime balls, over there talking about how Koresh had live hand grenades. I'm sorry, I watched the Senate hearings, I read the court transcripts. Those were paperweights, sir. He was over there acting like the good FBI agent that said there was some problems. Then the media began to get smart-mouth with me. And I got so angry I didn't even have some of my information, but I heard him over there lying, and I just had to tell him what I thought of him. Here is that actual confrontation. That didn't come out in the trial. You're some kind of provocateur. In fact, you're one of those FBI agents, aren't you? I don't give a damn. Oh, yeah, you're not going to do anything to me. These people are murderers. These people are murderers. I'm sick and tired of hearing your lies when you machine gunned a bunch of men, women, and children. You got a big problem, buddy. You sit over here. I'm not afraid of you guys. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I'm sick of it. You sit over here and you talk about how the children huddled in the corner and how the ammunition that they had is what killed them, all the rest of your garbage. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You don't stand up for the Constitution. You stand for zip, not a zero. You have no calm aplomb. It's false, my friend. Let me tell you, a lot of people are writing down your names. You can follow people around. You can harass people. You can back up your bankster buddies. But a revolution of peaceful information is coming, and when it comes time, you people are going to be brought to punishment. You understand? Just like Nuremberg. Just taking orders doesn't cut it, my friend. You understand me?
I think I've assessed you.
Yeah, you've assessed me. Listen, you can sit there and say some kind of little joke. All your textbook garbage, my friend. I got people like General Parton, ex-head of Air Force Weapons Development. We know the federal government destroyed Oklahoma. It's proven. We know what you guys are engaged in, just like Hitler burnt the Reichstag. We know you brought Nazis over here through the rat line to set up our CIA after the OSS. So you can't sit here. You can assess me all day. I want you to assess me. I've assessed you, a smiley-faced slime ball that sits here in soft pedals and tries to placate the media. Waco Rules of Engagement shows your agents machine gunning men, women, and children as they tried to exit. One of the inventors of flare technology, they didn't have 500,000 rounds of ammunition. I just talked to Clive Doyle.
Oh, okay. And Clive is the expert on the total number of pieces of ammo.
Yes.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Well, Clive's the one that invited me here.
Well, that is lie number one. We talked to Clive Doyle, and he did not invite this gentleman there. Clive Doyle is one of the surviving Branch Davidians. And then lie number two is the fact that this FBI negotiator who was there during 51 days sits up there and says sarcastically that, Clive Doyle was the expert. You couldn't fit 500,000 rounds of ammunition in the small room above the storage area. This guy just sits up there and acts like Mr. Loving and Mr. Caring to the media, and it makes you want to vomit. A real FBI agent is somebody like Frederick Whitehurst, ex-head of the FBI crime lab, that left because of all types of corruption. And then we sat there and asked this bozo, I shouldn't be like that, I'm sorry, if he was so much for the Branch Davidians, how about some indictments for Bob Ricks and others that ran the siege? And, of course, he wasn't for that. Couldn't do that. It's just so easy to sit in the middle and act like Mr. Sweetie Pie. All right, I slapped that together like in 10 minutes before we went on the air. That's why it's all bumpy and jumpy. I think we're going to put together like a 2-hour presentation of all the tape we got out there. And coming up are some interviews with Attorney General Ramsey Clark. Just a lot of other information. Again, the producer of Waco Rules of Engagement, Mike McNulty. And he's got a new documentary coming out. He wouldn't say it on tape, but he and others would say it off air. They have evidence. rock-hard evidence that British special forces were used, because half the people in the Branch Davidian church were British, and that's kind of how international systems work. If you're going to kill somebody from another country, you use their people. That's classic if you know about CIA operations, to come in with breathing apparatus, to go inside and machine gun the people from the inside and the outside. We have footage of them killing people on the outside. So,
it's just a matter of time till something like this came out. You know, I spoke to this gentleman after you had walked away, and he was a little bit more open with me than with you. I think he didn't know that we were together, and he had mentioned a great many things. One of the things that was pretty disturbing to me is he claimed, first of all, this gentleman was a hostage negotiator for the FBI. He claims to no longer work for the FBI, but I will tell you this: as a hostage negotiator, he also claimed that 19 days after the church burned to the ground, they were allowed in, and he was part of the recovery team, recovering bodies. In fact, he claimed it cut apart the hand of a mother and her child. She was holding her child's hand, and their hands had melted together. He claimed that the temperature in that room was approximately 3,000 degrees because they found melted aluminum, which I don't know if that's an accurate temperature figure, and that the people either died from suffocating on CS gas, either suffocation from smoke inhalation, or that they did not burn to death, but rather baked to death. And he made that point very clear. These bodies were not burned beyond recognition. They were, in fact, quite intact. They actually baked alive, if you can possibly imagine that.
well, the reason I blew up at him, and we don't have that on tape because we didn't know, we come walking up and we were listening. And he was up there, yes, the FBI, blah, blah, made some mistakes, but Koresh had live hand grenades.
Yeah, he said they found an unexploded hand grenade. After just saying that the temperatures in there were 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, then he goes and claims that there was an unexploded hand grenade found in there. And as far as the 500,000 shell casings goes, again, Alex had left at this point. There were shell casings still all over the place. And I'm sitting here thinking, if this gentleman, in fact, took such an accurate count, why were there still shell casings littered about 5 years later? And there was a sole of a shoe, a boot, still there with the imprint of someone's foot, the ball of someone's foot, where it had melted. Their foot had
You should have
melted
taken
into
that.
the shoe sole.
Should have taken that.
I think somebody else picked it up. And he also, and this is one of the most damning things that I heard him say, out of all the FBI agents that were out there collecting evidence, they were sifting through the dirt with screens, and they would collect evidence, and the dirt, the items that they considered to not be evidence, they were tossing in what they called trash piles. He said later on, one of the medical examiners was dumping his trash into the trash pile and found the spine and the pelvic cage of a child that had been discarded in the trash pile, and that whoever it was that sifted it didn't realize that those were the bones of a human being, one of the children that died in the attack on Waco. It's absolutely disgusting, the total lack of respect they have for human life.
He's an agent. He's a soft soaker. He's there to placate and engage in all that type behavior. Now, let me show you something right here. We have the Statesman, and it shows the baby from Oklahoma City. We have the Dallas Morning News. It has the same photograph.
Well, because other news is obtained from the same source, UPI or AP.
And we have USA Today. It has the same photograph of the baby. So they all have this fireman photo. Oh, but look, China's being nice. They released a political dissident. See, China's being good. They just have 30 million political dissidents in slave labor camps. Oh, boy. They're doing a really, really, really great job.
Alex, worse than that, when I got home last night and I turned on the television, one of the mainstream television news magazines were they playing anything about Oklahoma City? Were they playing anything about Waco? No, of course not. They spent 17 minutes, I timed it, on a couple that rescued a moose from an icy lake.
Well, see, that's part of lowering the level of humans by raising the level of animals. Then you can give animals voting rights, but animals can't talk, so the state gets to cast their ballot.
I'll tell you, it absolutely twisted my stomach. After meeting individuals, Clive Doyle, who I believe his hands were burned from trying to escape from the burning building. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, they were.
Is it okay? I met children that survived from there, old women that survived from Waco. I looked at headstones that memorialized dead children, dead babies, dead unborn babies, and I come home to my television set, mainstream so-called professional news people, and they're worried about some goddamn moose in a stupid frozen lake. This is way more important than babies dying, women dying, children dying, men dying, your government attacking its citizens. No, 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 no. What's important in this world is a moose.
Well, Steve, you know, though, we're hurting the earth. And I agree with that. And the first people that need to go with this global Malthusian euthanasia plan they've got set up for everybody is David Rockefeller, all your top people. I agree. And, hey, we should all be marked. We should all have to thumb scan and retina scan like they're doing and have more of a plan to buy and sell. Mike Hansen, the producer of this show, went to the bank today, and he has a recording of him asking if they have thumb scanning planned. And, yeah, I know to put it close. I'm not going to play it right now.
We tested it earlier.
Yeah, I do it on radio, too. And so what it comes down to is yes, they're planning to put in thumb scanners, electronic scanning to buy and sell. That'll be coming very, very soon for you in the future, for your best interest, of course. But I think that the elite should have to do it first. I think everybody in the establishment who's criminal, I don't mean somebody that owns a business or who people think is rich. No, I mean people that raise your taxes and ship drugs into your country. They should have to have a big brand burned on their head that says murderer. So I am for marking. I am for the things they're for. I am for killing whole populations. Let's start with them.
I think it's not such a bad plan.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, who's going to go first? Scott Horton was telling me a story. He's going to get a show down here. He's a friend of mine. He works at a restaurant, just a fast food place. He's a young guy, about 21 years old. Hardworking guy, works at a place, also drives a cab. He's in there, and this guy comes up and just makes a comment. And Scott didn't know that he was Jewish, because Scott has friends that are Jewish, you know, and he made the comment. The guy goes, without Scott saying anything, the guy's like, you know, what do you want? And the guy says, I want, you know, this such sandwich. And then the guy just starts spouting off, man, there's too many damn people. It's time to cull the herd. It's time to, you know, get rid of a lot of these people. Oh, I'm sick and tired of it. And Scott goes, oh, no, man. There's plenty of room. Haven't you been up in an airplane? Haven't you been out in the country? Haven't you been, yeah, I mean, haven't you seen America's 90% undeveloped? We've got plenty. Oh, no, we don't have enough water. There's not enough water. And he says, look at Israel. Look what they've done, the great job they've done. They have desalinization plants and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, we have tons of water in America. You can put a city here, a city there. And the guy goes, I'm from Israel. I'm Jewish. How dare you? And Scott was going, no, I was saying they moved there or moved back in the 1945 or 46 or 7 and made the desert bloom. I was being nice. And the guy's, we need to get rid of a lot of these people. We need to get rid of them. Scott's like, well, man, I can't believe that you're Jewish after all these people that have been killed of your people. I'm not for anybody dying. I'm for us improving technology and moving forward and doing what it takes. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, you're probably some kind of supremacist and got his stuff and left. I mean, and that's not a comment of a Jewish person. It's a comment of a German person, a Jewish person. I mean, I've had professors, you know, that were black, that were white. Doesn't matter. They're all infected. The whole society, regardless, is infected with this sickness that humans are bad. And Kevorkian is some type of god.
They're buying into this whole environmentalism, which is nothing more than gloom and doom. Witch doctors saying, oh, if you don't do this, the sky will turn black and the rivers will run red with your blood. You know, you have to give us your land. You have to have cities go buy $65 million worth of land to protect everything.
I try to escape this stuff. Last night I get home at about 1 o'clock. I've been working all day, been up since, you know, early in the morning, went to Waco, then I was editing the documentary. I come home, it's about 1 in the morning. I get in bed, I start reading this book my mother gave me. It was written by an Austin author. It's about the history of dogs. It's real well written. About 20 pages into it, it starts talking about the history in Europe that the poor people weren't allowed, and I already knew this, but it was just good to read it again, but I still can't escape elitism, even in a history of dogs. And it talked about how dogs, only the rich could have dogs. The poor people couldn't hunt or couldn't even go on the king's land, which was 90% of the whole country. Couldn't take some venison or some rabbits if they were dying. And if they were allowed to have a dog, it was only to service the king's sheep, you know, as a sheepdog. They would cut off 3 digits off the dog's left paw so it would hobble so it couldn't bring down game. And it talked about how people weren't allowed to use property and how they could be executed for killing a rabbit even if their family was starving. This is ancient. Control of the resources by crooked establishments to make you impotent in... That's what it is. This is just modern feudalism. Yeah, we're fixing to go to...
It's
now,
an interview that I happened to be down at the tax protest on the real April Fool's Day, April 15th, and guess who was there? Your Travis County Sheriff, Margot Frazier. I think it's very interesting. She waits to the last minute to pay her taxes like so many others. And actually, it was Mike that spotted her, Mike Hansen, and we flagged her down, got her to pull off because she was
hold on,
it's not traffic.
It's not her taxes. It's
yes.
it's Chase Manhattan taxes.
Yeah.
It's
corporate welfare.
It's Citibank taxes. It's basically your old trust money. We pay taxes to the secret government. Remember
Right. But she was concerned about holding up traffic, so she pulled off to the side, and she very graciously granted an interview. And I want you to listen very carefully. She admits about that Starflight's going to be used for going to be mounted with forward-looking infrared radar. Mike, do you have that tape all queued up?
And also, after that, we've got Shannon Burke, who's on the same radio station as me. I'm a frequent guest.
First of all, I'm Steve Lane. This is Sheriff Margot Frazier. Is that correct? I'm sorry. I actually live in Marble Falls, so I'm familiar with names and faces. If it's all right, we just want to ask you a few questions. First of all, I'd like to extend an invitation. Lieutenant Beck has accepted an invitation to be our featured speaker at our Downsized Government Conference this month. We kind of wanted to give our audience a chance to hear what the role of SWAT is. Like, I was surprised to learn that their main role is serving felony warrants, which was news to me. And I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about how people reporting that some of the local law enforcement agencies are doing some training with federal government people, military, that sort of thing. And we wanted a chance to let him to hear his side of the story. We've only heard one side of the story, so I'd kind of like to see maybe you come down there and speak for a little bit. We'd really love to hear you talk. But right now I wanted to ask you a few questions. We wanted to talk about Starflight a little bit. Can you kind of give me a rundown, because I myself am just learning about it. I don't know all the facts. Can you kind of give me a rundown about what some of the controversy is surrounding Starflight and its use by the Sheriff's Department?
Well, I don't know. One second.
I have
a 5-year-old.
I was going to say, I have a 5-year-old and an 8-month-old, and you can imagine this 8-month-old crawling around right now. Oh, my gosh, you should see it.
I don't know if there is any controversy about us using Starflight. We wanted to start a helicopter patrol program, especially to use for rescues out on the lake, and to be able to use in other high-risk situations. But having the use of a helicopter, it would lessen the risk to both the public and to the officers. And so we looked at different ways to do that, and one of the cheapest ways to do it was to use helicopters that were already being paid for by the county. And so we made a proposal to use Starflight during the hours that it was not being flown from medical emergencies. Medical emergencies is still the first priority is Starflight. And so we have a schedule in which we use it. We use the same mechanics, the same pilots, and have a sheriff's office personnel on board. And by doing that, we're able to operate the program basically at the cost of the fuel and nothing more to the public.
What about the, I've heard something, and again, I'm still educating myself, so bear with me here. It seems like I recall seeing something about somebody's introduced a plan to build a hangar to house Starflight and some possible purchase of some Sheriff's Department helicopters or something to that effect. Can you speak to that a little bit?
There is part of the bond issue that was passed by the public was a new Starflight hangar. Starflight is presently housed at Robert Mueller Airport. You might be aware it's going away.
Right.
And they have been told that they're not welcome at the new airport because of the difficulty of helicopters and airplanes living together. I don't understand it all, but if they tell me
I'm a private pilot, I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, if they say that's a problem, I accept it. And so there needs to be a new Starflight hangar, and so they've been looking at places to put the Starflight hangar. County is exploring the fact of maybe putting they're also looking for places for parts of my decentralization plan, some substations. And so the discussion was, do we put, you get to listen to kids' songs in the background.
Great.
Yeah, she's wonderful. But whether or not we should put Starflight and the sheriff's substation and even perhaps a warehouse together. And so that's the talk about it being together. I mean,
what about, have you heard anything, do they plan to change anything at all having to do with the helicopter itself? Will they change any of the equipment, any of the setup of the helicopter, or have you heard anything about that at all?
Well, there are 2 new county helicopters that are supposed to be coming in because the ones that we presently have are due to be phased out. And so we've talked about for law enforcement purposes, there are a couple things that you would like to have, but also, I mean, they're actually the same essential sort of things you use for rescue missions, as far as some things that will allow you to essentially do some heat sensing, what's called a FLIR, so that if you were looking for somebody on the lake at night, you wouldn't only be able to use the light, but you could use the heat sensing to try to find where they are.
I see. The helicopters that were purchased, were they used helicopters or new?
No, they're my understanding that these are new helicopters, and they're being purchased through EMS, and we, quite frankly, have had nothing to do with what type they are. Since their main purpose is medical, they're dictating what the helicopters look like.
I see. What do you think about maybe getting Lieutenant Beck to be one of the guys who flies it? He's got a commercial rating. Why don't you try and talk him into that? He seems like a pretty good guy.
Well, he is a good guy, and we have some very experienced pilots with those aircrafts that are part of the Starflight program who tell me they can put it down anywhere, and so I think I'll leave the flying to them.
He'd probably do too many aerobatics anyway. He was telling me about some aerobatics training he did. I'm a pilot too, and we chatted a lot about that. I tell you what, just for some closing comments, anything, how much of are you an elected official? Is that how it works? How much time is left on your term?
I've got another 2.5 years. I'm in just finished my 15th month.
Out of the last part of your term, is there any one main specific thing you'd like to accomplish, or just a lot of general things? And could you speak about those a little bit?
Well, I have a multifaceted job. I not only have responsible for all
You're
the law enforcement, I'm a mom, as you can tell. I'm not only responsible for law enforcement in the unincorporated areas of serving the felony warrants all over Travis County, provision. I have mental health deputies that go all over the county, but I also run a 2,500-bed jail facility. And so this next year, we're in the process of finishing our new booking facility, and we'll be opening that. And then we start on a new psychiatric and medical facility out at Del Valley. So we always have something going on, and we're also trying to do some decentralization to take the officers out to the public. So the public, instead of always sitting downtown Austin waiting for the public to come to us, for us to go to them.
Real quick, have you heard of the Travis County ASAP program, and what would you be willing to say maybe what your feelings are about that?
Well, the ASAP program is a program that's run by the constables out of the Commissioner's Court. I think that the basic idea of getting kids to go to school is a good program. I was supportive of looking at the ideas of, does it make good economic sense to have somebody go out there the very first time?
Well, we are back, and of course you notice that it's all for emergencies, and the key thing that she kept saying is, well, we get the helicopters and we control them, and we're going to put infrared on them, heat sensors on them, and all the rest of this stuff, but we don't decide who buys them. See, they put them on the bond package as Starflight, EMS, emergency rescue. As I drove over here today, I saw 2 dark green military surveillance type helicopters. They weren't the big Sikorskis, they weren't the big Bells, they were little Peapod military surveillance helicopters with photographic and infrared pods on the bottom. I'm going to start carrying, and I'm seeing more and more of these things.
They were at Waco. There was one at Waco.
Yeah, and we got that on tape. I mean, we're in a police state. It is accelerating, and they're getting ready to close the door on us. Again, we have Ramsey Clark. He was Attorney General, former Attorney General, and also worked in several other administrations. So you're going to want to hear what he has to say coming up in Waco yesterday. And then, of course, we have producers and others. Do you want to go ahead and go to Shannon Burke?
Yeah, we did.
This is at the tax protest. If you want to see the tax protest, you can see footage of the tax protest the 23rd of April, and that's on Thursdays, and that's at 5 p.m. So every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. you can see more of these stories in their entirety. And so, of course, that is the 23rd of April. You will be able to see, and I think that's this Thursday, isn't it?
Yes, this Thursday.
This Thursday at 5 p.m. You can set your VCRs. You'll be able to see the tax protest, which got pretty heated, I heard. Let's go ahead and go to Shannon Burke from my radio station, the station I work for, 98.9 KJFK.
Can't say what. This is for Access Television,
okay,
but you can figure it out. Same one as Mr. Alex Jones. We're standing here at the main post office, and I've invited Shannon to perhaps come down and speak at the Downsized Government Conference. Why don't you tell people what you're doing out here tonight?
Well, I'm just trying to get a little feedback. I mean, there's a lot of people that protest this. We see it on TV all the time. People really want to know if it's real. And if it is real, how can we participate? Everyone fears the IRS. We've been fearing them for years and years and years. They're the most powerful force in our lives, more powerful than the Lord Jesus Christ, if you can imagine that. But we want to know how to beat it. No one wants to pay taxes if we don't have to. We love our country, but if we don't have to pay the taxes, we're not going to pay them. And we're just out here I'm just trying to find out, the direction, where we're headed, how we can get involved.
What I think is interesting is we had a woman quoting a Bible verse earlier. We've been trying to interview people, and I'd say 98% of people won't talk on camera. And I think a lot of that's through fear. And I don't mean apathy or being scared or nervous. I think they genuinely are fearful.
Absolutely. The IRS can kiss my big white butt. I don't give a damn. I mean, I pay them every year. Year after year after year, I pay and I pay and I pay. And there's no end to it. And I, more than anyone else, am more interested in the sovereignty individual of America and how I can become that way and the homework and what I need to do. It's all about education. Learn what you can. Go to the seminars. Exercise what these people are telling you. And beat our opponent. Beat our opponent.
What's the name of your new show going to be?
The Shannonberg Show, I think.
Very good, very good. One quick thing. I noticed that one woman who was quoting Bible verses when we spoke to her. I think it's very interesting that God himself only asked for 10% of your income, but the IRS asked for about 38%. What do you think about that?
I think God knows what he's doing. He doesn't want to gouge anybody. God needs a little bit of money. He's got a lot of overhead, God does. He's got heaven. He's got everybody up there. He only needs a little bit of money for overhead. Of course, our country needs more than he needs, which tells you something right there. Listen to my calls in quite a bit, so thank you, Steve.
It was nice meeting you, Shannon. I appreciate it. I'm going to
get
you down there. I'll call you.
You got it.
Well,
member of the right-wing extremist club.
Shannon's funny.
He's turning.
Yes.
Before your influence, buddy, he was a bleeding heart, tree-hugging liberal, and now look at him.
Well, now he knows that the people
knows the truth.
Now he knows that the people that are cutting down the trees are the ones conning and controlling these wind-up toy environmentalist organizations.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, and Shannon's very easily swayed by, he's a good guy. You'll see him one day, and then the next day he's in with a different crowd. But he's starting, even when he's around them, he's starting to. Well, I've been out with Shannon a couple times. He's a good guy, and he used to own Cedar Street down there, and I think he owns some other interest in some other bars, and owns some real estate.
That was the first time I actually met him in person. He's a big guy. Yeah. He's a big guy. I wouldn't want to meet him on a dark street with him kicked off at you.
Yeah, he's a big wimp. I'm just joking. No, seriously. All right, what's the next story? I think we should go ahead and go to, if we've queued up the tape. Are you ready for that, Mike? Or what was the schedule tonight? You've given me thumbprint. Yeah, thumbprint.
This is a tape recording that Mike made at, I believe it was his bank. It's a little bit scratchy. We're just taking it up right off the micro cassette recorder here. But we want you to hear what happened at his bank.
This isn't my recorder. I don't see play on here. Will you just shove it into?
Q maybe?
Oh, it's review. Remember, we don't have teleprompters. Actually, we have teleprompters, but we never use them. I know how to do it right here. This is Mike at the bank.
I was just curious. Is this bank setting up the thumb scanning or the fingerprints already?
Yes, it is in the lobbies for non-account holders only.
Okay, but they don't have any plans to make the regular customers start thumb scanning or fingerprinting at this time?
I don't know. Let me ask.
Because that's when I quit your bank.
Great silence. Is that it, Mike? And there we go.
Actually, wait.
Do you have any plans at this time? Are y'all setting up the thumb scanning or fingerprint deal right now?
Yes, sir. Actually, the thumbprinting has already been implemented, and that takes place in the lobby. That's why our drive-throughs are now reserved for our account holders only, and our non-account holders have to take their checks into the lobby in order to cash them.
Okay, but you're not making the ones that have accounts here get thumb scanned or fingerprint at this time, right?
At this particular point in time, no. We're trying to hold back from doing that because we wouldn't want to inconvenience our account holders. Depending upon a lot of things, how security goes, how this new procedure is going, then they will decide whether or not they want to move towards making our account holders do their thumb printing.
I wanted to make a little comment here. Mike asked me to ask people, for those of you who wanted something to do, this is one small step you can make. We could start a grassroots effort here. Mike is making a call tonight to have every individual who's against having their thumbprint taken at the bank, their thumb scanned at the bank, fingerprints, blood, whatever it is they want next week, to stand up and say, if you're going to do this, I'm not going to use your bank. I'm not going to bring my business here. And if enough people cry out against this, they will stop this thumb scanning, thumb printing at banks. I mean, ultimately, it is money that drives these banks. They are businesses. It's time to stand up. If you want to stand up in your own little way, this is a great way to do it. I agree with Mike. A grassroots effort like this could be very successful. You can stand up against the New World Order in your own little way, in your own little hometown,
Well,
and
look
say,
here.
I refuse to do this, or I won't do business with you if you make
Well,
me do this.
that's a great resistance, but first we have to educate people. If people started standing up against that, they'd send in some agent provocateur screaming, I hate thumb scanning, and he'd blow up a building with 1,000 people in it. And then everyone would say thumb scanning is wonderful.
Oh, but this is America. It's the greatest country in the world.
They have to have thumb scanning. I'm talking about digital thumb scanning imprint, and they do it to get a driver's license. Clinton wants urine and blood testing. I've showed you the documents 100 times, Federal Register, all that jazz. You want to deny it, that's fine. It's about a world taxation system. It's about taking away your individual rights. And people say, well, what do you have to fear? What are you hiding? It's an invasion of privacy. And you can prepare yourselves. The media's drumming up support for it. For retina scanning, the government's already doing it, been doing it for 20 years. For thumbprint and handprint identification. For urine and blood testing to get driver's license. Prepare yourself for new environmental taxes that are massive. For cameras everywhere. For K-tag chips in your car before you're able to drive or move or do anything. They're already doing it in Kansas and other states. Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves to be tracked and numbered like in some sick machine. And I hope you all enjoy it, because there'll be plenty of football games and plenty of bread and circus for you to enjoy until they institute the economic crash to consolidate the wealth, because these are despots. These are criminal individuals that are running this country and that are running this world. They don't have to do what they're doing, but they're going to do it because they make their money out of control of civilizations, not out of production and real creation and ingenuity. So this is a real deal here. This is really happening.
I tell you, we're going to kind of shift focus here a little bit. Alex and I and many others took a bus yesterday to Waco at the site of Mount Carmel, or at least what's left of it. There's been a nice little museum erected there. There were surviving Branch Davidians. There was probably at least 300 people, I would say. It's difficult to tell because it's a very spread out area. The crowd was very spread out. We had a former United States Attorney General there under the
LBJ.
Johnson administration. Yeah. He also served in the Kennedy administration. We're going to see some footage
also
here.
The Carter administration.
Oh, also the Carter administration. We're going to see some footage here. We regret that it's so concise here, but obviously we're going to get together. We have hours of footage. We're going to have to edit something
I mean,
together.
I didn't select stuff out of here very well. I got up here about an hour before the show, actually 2 hours before and I just kind of slapped some cuts out of here. We're going to put it on in its entirety, a whole 2 hours of it. You'll probably be able to see an hour of it Thursdays from 5 to 6 in the next few weeks during the Real News Hour. A lot of scary information. And you saw earlier how I griped out that FBI agent who was out there soft-soaking things. I just want to say one thing, Steve. I appreciate the work you've been doing and the work everybody's been doing. I have been working really hard on this documentary, and that's got me a little bit stressed out. But by the FCC saying we'll give you a $10,000 fine.
What's those are? Before we go to this video, real quick, I forgot to mention earlier that the alleged provocateur, one of the things he said was that Clive Doyle invited him there, and we talked to Clive Doyle, and what Clive said is that the gentleman had asked to be out there. He hadn't been out there in 5 years since the original siege, and Clive Doyle said, I can't keep you from coming out here. Now, that's not much of an invitation. On top of that...
Well, unfortunately, I stormed off because the bus had to leave. You rode home with somebody else because you wanted to continue. The video cameras were gone. But yes, Clive said, yeah, that FBI agent is out there. I wish he wasn't here. He's out there walking around on the rubble out there with the film crews. We stormed out, went out to see what he was talking about. Right as I walk up, he's sitting up there on the rubble saying, the children died here, you know. Koresh had unexploded hand grenades and 500,000 rounds of ammunition. I just explode and go storming up to him. And then he starts going, what's your problem? What's your problem? And I attack him on a few things, but I should have sit there and said, you're a liar, sir. That came out in the Senate hearings. I'm just sick of these people.
I'll tell you, one of the other points, too, was that Clive had he had asked Clive, do you think anybody will feel any animosity towards me? And Clive told him, quite frankly, there's only one way to find out. You know, I can't tell you. Well,
you know what the sick part was, too? The media. It was local media.
They were swarming this guy.
Well, they were swarming him, and I believe it was a KV-24 reporter. I walk up, and I say, you're a liar. And the guy turns, and he goes, we're doing something here. And I go, well, I said, he's a liar. And the guy goes, hey! And they must be used to people just quivering. I said, you shut the hell up. I shouldn't have been rude. I said, I'm going to tell this guy he's a liar. He's standing where these children died that he negotiated. They weren't negotiating. They lied. Waco Rules of Engagement shows these guys lying to the Davidians. Then they machine gun him, and he's up there soaking up all this attention.
500,000 rounds of ammunition would have taken up at least a third of that room from the floor to the ceiling. We did some volume calculations the other day. He claimed that these 500,000 rounds of ammunition were stacked on 2x12 shelves and collapsed on top of the people, and that caused some of the blunt
It's a very small room.
Injuries.
You're talking about a small room that had 20-something children and women, or 30-something, and then it had 500,000 rounds of ammo.
Hey, even if what he said was true, which I don't think it was, why is a hostage negotiator going around doing body recovery? I mean, isn't that forensic evidence?
Look, this guy's an agent. He's a front man. He's out there to soft soak. Let's go ahead and go to the clip. And don't forget, Ramsey, okay, let's go to a call.
Caller, go ahead.
Go ahead, caller.
Hang on, caller. You're not turned up yet. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
How you doing, caller?
Hi, this is for Alex. I was just wondering if you ever, when you went down to get your license, because you are the mass murderer that you are, you got arrested, if any of the people, just general people that were there, said to hell with it, no.
No, they didn't. As soon as I got arrested, everybody got pushed out. It was funny. It was like they thought I would, command people to do something bad.
Right. We were forced out of the building.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean you people. I mean just people in general that were there.
I heard that somebody got arrested a couple of weeks after for refusing.
I hadn't heard that.
Okay, and also I was wondering what exactly did you do about your license? Did you have to go and get it, or?
No, I'm just driving without a license.
Well,
and yeah, they've taken my right to travel. That's why I went ahead and got arrested. They kept saying, leave or we'll arrest you, or this or that, on and on. And I said, look. Well, they said, you don't have to take this driver's license. You don't have to take this driver's license, on and on and on. And I said, you're not going to arrest me now. But if I don't take this, I'll be arrested out on some road when I don't have a...
You need to go from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. Can't cash checks at banks that I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
They have taken my right to buy and sell. That's what it is. And they're going to turn up the heat and make it worse. Because I won't take Bill Clinton's mark. And it is a digital number. It is a human number. It is a human number calculated by the separation and the ring structure of your thumbprint.
It's a digital tattoo.
I was just wondering if you ever did any kind of follow-up as to how many people just said, to hell with it, I'm going with this guy. I mean, just oblivious to you even being there.
I told people I didn't want them to go into jail. There were some people that were ready to do that. I just wanted to get attention to the fact that, if you and your neighbors, 10 of you.
I didn't mean
well, hold on for a second. If you and your neighbors want to get together and go down and protest yourselves, I've done it now. Some other people need to set up protest.
I don't think you understand what I'm saying. It's not as far as going to jail, just people that just walked out and said, to hell with it, I'm not getting my license.
You mean people already there that didn't have anything to do with the protest?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I don't know if that happened or not.
Well, I know the news got some 18-year-old female to say, these people are, it's weird how they're protesting this. I love it. Pretty much is what was on KV-24.
Well, listen, thanks for your call.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Basically, though, I don't care if others don't stand up against this. I wish they would. If they don't want to, great. They can be slaves. Is it time to go to the tape now? Again, Again, this is the Freedom Report every Monday evening from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Okay, sure. Yeah, there's the helicopter. It was military, and it was flat green, and it was of a surveillance type, and it did have a pod of some type. I've watched Discovery Channel enough to know it a surveillance pod with either flare, forward infrared-looking infrared technology, or it was a zoom camera that they were taking photographs of us with to later blow up. I'm not exactly sure, but Steve Lane, again, was in the Air Force for how many years?
3.
3 years, and he fueled aircraft. Did you ever fuel helicopters?
Yes.
And so you've learned what the distinctive...
it has a reflection that's very distinctive.
Well, it has a little... It's
very pinkish.
Yes, it's a reflection below the helicopter pod.
Yes, definitely. And the pod is in the nose. That was a Bell Jet Ranger that you saw. I'm not sure which model. They have so many different models, Bell does. But at any rate, you could see that pod very clearly. I don't know if you could see it very well in the film. You could see the reflection in the film, which I was glad, because it does have this distinctive reflection. It's kind of pinkish when you're there in person, and that's because the type of glass that these cameras sit behind, particularly if you look at them in an angle.
It reflects light.
Yeah, they're such high-quality glass, they're almost like mirrors.
Well, yes, it reflects light so that there isn't a shine on the front of the lens so they can get high-resolution photographs. So they were flying over at an angle, around and around in circles. About 3 times they fly around?
I didn't pay attention that long because we got the footage, and then we were looking around for other people that might have had the footage as well, that sort of thing.
Well, if we're ready now, we'll go ahead and go to about 20 minutes of tape. This is the Freedom Report every Monday night.
Look, there's never been a good answer for that. Jeff Jamar in the congressional hearings stated categorically that the reason why April 19th was picked was because the weather was good. Well, if you're putting gas into a building, having a high-velocity wind operative that can dissipate the gas doesn't mean that the weather was good. It means that it was bad. So what did he mean the weather was good? Was it good for a fire? Yeah. It was very conducive for an arson fire, but it wasn't very good for inserting gas that day. So what did Jeff Jamar mean? No one that wound up inevitably causing the death of all these people. Who was ultimately responsible? Agents of the FBI, agents of the federal government, and the military. They were ultimately responsible for the deaths of all these people.
One more question. What would you say the general public thinks? Who does the general public think is at fault?
Well, I think the general public is in a state of confusion. Unfortunately, yourself and the rest of the media haven't helped that much in terms of clarifying that state of confusion. But I think that they're concerned about, who did kill the kids? I think that the questions that are contained in the film are questions that everyone needs to answer, including yourself. Who killed the children? The bottom line becomes one of you have a personal obligation as a citizen, you have a dual obligation as a reporter to find out what went on. And what bothers me is that the media allows people like Buck Revell or Bob Ricks to answer questions about the issues raised in my film, and these gentlemen haven't even seen the film, and yet they spout off like they have. And you don't nail them for it. You ought to. The other thing that I find disturbing is that very few people in the media have seen the film, and yet they'll sit there and pontificate for hours about what's good or bad about it. Well, see the film, answer the questions, and that goes for any citizen. See the film, answer the questions.
His film, documentary, Waco Rules of Engagement, was up for an Academy Award, and I think it should have won. It is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. It methodically documents the hysteria in our government. Mr. McNulty, I want to thank you for doing this interview.
You're welcome.
Do you think this is going to come out? Why are you making a second documentary?
Well, the first film certainly raised all the right questions. Didn't always have all of the answers. So I've spent some additional time and effort in trying to get better answers to the questions. Who shot first on February 28th? Was there really gunfire from the helicopters? Did the FBI shoot at the Branch Davidians on April the 19th in spite of their protestations? Who were the people at the back of the building shooting at the Branch Davidians on April the 19th? What was involved with the explosion on the top of the bunker during the course of the fire? How was the evidence handled or mishandled in the following investigation? Questions like that. So we get to deal with those issues, and hopefully when we've dealt with them, we're in the process of making that film, and I'm finding very little cooperation from people who were involved. People like Bob Ricks or Jeff Chamar or Dick
He was
Ross.
head of the FBI at that operation, correct?
No, Jeff Chamar was.
And Bob Ricks, he was?
He was the public spokesperson that you saw in all the news
Okay, so he was the public spokesperson for the FBI.
Right. And basically, trying to get those people to cooperate now has been like pulling teeth. They're not interested. Well, I can appreciate why they might not be, but the fact of the matter is, these are the same fellows that are out bad-mouthing my film, and I think it's only appropriate first that they see the film before they bad-mouth it, and then once they've had that opportunity, that they also spend some time answering the questions raised in the film, as opposed to just being critical in sort of a general haphazard way.
Mr. McNulty, I have seen your documentary when it premiered in Austin, Texas, to a packed house at the Dobie at UT, and I was ashamed that our newspaper didn't do a front cover story. They did it in the movie section, and they said it showed troubling information, showed federal agents firing from their sniper points and actually up right next to the church, or what the media would call the compound. I know some new documentation's coming out that's even worse than just the feds firing at women and children as they tried to exit the burning building through the cafeteria area. Now, is it true that some documentation's coming out, if you want to go ahead and release this, I've heard it from others, that that they actually sent in...
I don't think so.
That they actually sent in hit squads?
I don't think so.
You don't think they sent in hit squads?
No, I don't think I'm going to release any information right now under these circumstances. Basically, we will have new information in the film. People will be able to judge for themselves as to what went on and why it went on and who was responsible. But no, I don't think I want to talk about that too much right now.
Yes, due to their arrogance, they ignored this powerful information, and now it's gotten pretty big, and they're starting to panic.
I don't know if panic's the right word, but certainly they've begun to pay attention where they hadn't for the past year and a half. And ultimately, all that tells me is these fellas have got something on their mind. And I have contacted them recently, like Bob Ricks, and given them the opportunity to speak their piece, you know, to state their side of the story. And they refuse to do so. So in my mind, all that tells me is they've got something to hide. So if that's the case, then shame on them. I think what went on here, and the fact that it wasn't documented by the media the way it should have been, probably has something to do with why you have a TV show and a radio show. You're not exactly mainline, but on the other hand, the birth of that type of communications is a good thing, because it gives the mainline media something to think about next time they want to kowtow to the people of the Justice Department for fear of losing news sources. So perhaps it's a good thing, and perhaps there is good that's come out of the situation at Waco.
In your opinion, who was it firing the automatic weapons?
Who was firing the automatic weapons at the back of the building on April the 19th will be revealed in the new film. In terms of, do I think that, do I have any idea why the media isn't doing their job? I don't know. You have to go ask them. That's what you ought to be doing right now, is asking these guys why they haven't done their job relative to that.
Okay, let's go ask them. Well, they're just errand boys. They're just out getting the footage. It gets cut up back home.
Yeah, and what you have to do is go and find the editors.
I've done it.
And put them on camera and ask them, why is it you haven't run these stories?
Let's go ask
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
I'm serious. Have you seen Waco Rules of Engagement?
Yes, I have.
You have? So you have seen the inventor, the man that holds 3 of the 4 patents on flare technology, telling you that those are sniper points firing automatic weapons. What do you think about that?
I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was a different perspective than I had heard before. I don't know that I will base any definite opinion on it, but I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a different perspective, and it taught me something I didn't know before.
Well, are you aware that our Secretary of Defense, William Cohen, just created 10 regional teams to work with local law enforcement? That is absolutely unconstitutional, and they're doing anti-terrorism training all around the country. Are you aware that General Benton Pardon, ex-head of Air Force Weapons Development, says that Oklahoma City was done with pinpoint strikes inside the building?
No, I wasn't aware about that.
Right up there on the podium, here at the 5-year remembrance of the slaughter here, is Ramsey Clark, ex-Attorney General of the United States of America. And he is there telling you that we are under federal control. The military is training with local law enforcement. This is absolute police state. Nazi Germany is right upon us, but this time it's going to be not racial, but environmental and socialist. It's the real deal, ladies and gentlemen, and you can't deny it. Clark, he was Attorney General during LBJ's administration, and he said some very stunning information that a lot of us in the freedom movement know about, but a lot of people out there in the mainstream because of the press don't know about. He was talking about the growing police state. Sir, would you like to make some comments on that?
Well, our government has become the greatest purveyor of violence on earth, as Dr. King said it was in 1967. But today it's gone beyond all reasonable bounds. Two trains people like the School for the Americas to go into Chiapas, Mexico, and kill Mayan Indians who were starving to death with our NAFTA thing that's driven their corn off the market because they can't compete with us and then can't sell their surplus corn to make a little money to buy some water purifier so their kids don't get sick and die from polluted water. Here at home, you see things like Waco, which show that we carry over our militarism right into our churches to assault church people.
Well, yes, sir. My first question is, or my first statement about this is you're absolutely right. I mean, we have military training, people in black ski masks with the MJTF, the multi-jurisdictional task forces, training directly with our local law enforcement in Austin, Texas, where I'm from, and I found out that this is a nationwide movement.
Sure it is, and the sad part is, you know, the cop is supposed to be our friend on the beat. He's the one that gets the cat out of the tree and takes care of the lost kids and stops someone from burglarizing a home and stuff like that. Instead, they love to be SWAT team, you know?
It's the thin blue line. They're teaching them. In fact, I've heard police...
Pretty thick blue line right now.
I've done interviews at protests and things, and the police walk up and say, stay behind the demarcation line. And you'll hear them talking, watch the civilians. They're using military terminology. Is this dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous. The paramilitary concept of police is a police state, you know? And our Constitution was created to prevent a police state. Yet our police expenditures, our creation of the fear of crime and the belief that you can solve crime by more prisons, by the death penalty, and by beating people in the head is crazy. It's just war with our own society. And you see it come to a head at a peaceful church outside of Waco, Texas, Mount Carmel.
And just to talk a little bit more about the police state, and I appreciate you doing this interview, Mr. Clark, that is the dangerous part about it. Eisenhower, Kennedy, many others warned us about the military-industrial complex, and now since we've dominated the whole planet, they are now still selling fear, but now they're selling fear of the American people. They're making us the enemy.
Well, I think that's right. Our prison population in Texas is the worst of all in many ways. Just no free society tells people do what we say or we'll kill you.
Yes.
I mean, that's the mentality of a police state.
Well, Mr. Clark, just a couple more questions. Again, Attorney General in the LBJ administration, and you also worked in the Kennedy and the Carter administration?
I worked 8 years, Kennedy Johnson. I did one assignment, maybe two, for President Carter, the first one having to do with the hostages.
I was mistaken. I got up in front of the podium and got it mixed up. But the thing that I don't think that the American public realizes is that this military training is going on. What are some things that we can do to get this reversed, hopefully?
Well, I think we have to resist at every level. If you don't work at the national level, you can't expect the local level. I mean, after all, we're providing a lot of federal funds for the local level, and they love it.
And that brings control.
It brings control. It brings technology. It brings things they don't need, you know.
Infrared.
Who needed tanks out here? Yeah, you've got everything that billions and billions of dollars of research and development to provide the military are now being
It's going into civilian control. Have you seen Waco Rules of Engagement?
Sure.
It's horrifying, isn't it?
It's horrifying. The whole story is even more horrifying.
Sir, I didn't actually see this last year, but I heard about it reported in some of the alternative press. Is it true that last year you spoke about how the Trilateral Commission is running the country?
Well, I've criticized the Trilateral Commission for many years, but I don't really think the Trilateral Commission is running the country. I think
CFR?
I think the same people are
control it.
The same people that run the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Trilateral.
Those are just front groups.
Sure. I mean, they're just
meeting houses.
They're organizations through which they implement their power, and it's an international group that maintains power through the multinational corporations and the media and all the rest.
Yes, sir. And wouldn't you say that now what you have is corporate socialism for them and slavery for us?
Well, you've got corporate wealth for them. they don't.
It's called stealing.
It could be called stealing, although it's stealing on such a grand scale that you'd have to call it grand larceny, I think. Well, propaganda is one of the main means they employ: demonization, fear of crime, and things like that. But every individual,
the Hegelian principle.
Every individual has an obligation to be involved in this struggle if you want to live free and want your children who come after to live free. You can't be a bystander. And right now we really risk this spread of militarization throughout the world that is endangering the poor everywhere. It's a desire to control by force. There's so many people and so much poverty, and there's so much technology that can destroy people that is being employed against people everywhere. The poor here, the poor nations abroad. So we have to work on slashing our military budget to the bare bones. It ought to be slashed 90%. We've got to cut back on all hardware for police. Police ought to serve the people, not be a force. It shouldn't be a paramilitary concept. It ought to be a social service concept that deals sensitively with the people. We have to deal with the basic problems. While we have poverty, we're going to have the problems that poverty creates. Poverty is the mother of crime. Plato told us that 2,500 years ago, and it was pretty obvious then. It's pretty obvious now.
Yes.
I have one more speaker that I'd like to introduce, and he didn't even know he was going to talk here today. But it's the talk show host that put together the busload of people that came up from Austin, Texas. He's on radio station KJFK in Austin, does a program called The Real Spin. His name is Alex Jones. Alex?
Well, it's hard to speak after Ramsey Clark, Attorney General. You hear what he was just telling you? There is a massive consolidation of local police departments under federal control, the Multi-Jurisdictional Task Force and the JTF-6, which is based at Fort Bliss, Texas. They wear black ski masks. They train in military tactics. And they are the big gun and the long arm of the IRS and the criminal system that is running this nation. Make no mistake, the murders of these people and these children was about one thing and one thing only. It was about terrorism against the American people. It was about testing and pushing the limits to see if the government could surround a group, if they could kill those people and burn it to the ground. Waco Rules of Engagement shows the automatic weapons fire as men and women tried to exit the back of the building. That's where most of the bodies were found, right in the edge. Hit squads, military black ops, the same ones that destroyed Oklahoma City, just like Hitler burnt the Reichstag in 1933. I mean, where is our country when ex-attorney generals of the United States of America are here telling you that Reno and the rest of them and the Republicans and the Democrats are all the same people? I mean, it just makes my heart swell with pride that we do have people like Ramsey Clark and others and this whole crowd out here that is standing in defiance of tyranny. And I'll take a line from that movie, Braveheart. What would you give, dying in your bed all these years from now, to have just once stood up in defiance of tyranny, to put on the armor and to ride out on the field against the enemy? And violence is not the way to go. They are the ones that use violence. They are the ones that are dangerous. Amen. Understand that. We've got to use information like Waco Rules of Engagement. I mean, that documentary is so powerful because it doesn't exaggerate, it doesn't lie. For 3 hours, it lays out the information for you to see. And where is the mainstream media editing this information out? You have federal agents killing men, women, and children. They came that day and opened fire first. Helicopters came in and assaulted. And now we find out, and it's going to come out in the next documentary, and think about this, that they sent in death squads with breathing apparatus to kill those people inside because they couldn't have any witnesses of what really happened on the first day of the 51-day standoff. So we're dealing with murder. We're dealing with terrorism against the American people, and this is nothing new in the history of the world. Authoritarian regimes always seek to control the modes of finance, the printing of money, transportation, food production, you name it, it's all coming under federal control under the guise of environmentalism, which is nothing but a cult now. It's very, very serious. Somebody has got to stand up. More people have got to stand up. FEMA, under Senate Resolution 21, is building hundreds of concentration camps on military bases, set up for families, areas for men, areas for women, areas for women with children, and areas for men who have families on the other side of the camp. And by the way, they have triple the guard towers, and I have played this many times on my television show. It's just out of control. I have congressmen on tape, Henry B. Gonzalez and others, admitting this. Look at the world. And then I'm going to get off here because there's others have a lot more to say than me. Hitler killed 40 million. The communists in Russia killed about 100 million. The communist Chinese, we're not sure, 100, 200 million. And it's still going on, and we're buying slave goods from these people. They're moving into Long Beach Naval Base. They're moving into the high desert of California at Victorville and Adelanto and building 20 mini-malls to bring in slave goods directly. This is a deindustrialization of our... And it is just sick what's happening to our country, and people have got to stand up against it if freedom is going to survive. And the plans are there, make no mistake, but don't be fearful. People that lay down. I mean, ask yourself, how did the Germans allow Hitler to come to power? They believed his propaganda. Most of the death camps were off in Poland. Keep it away, keep it on military bases, keep it behind closed doors. This is what's happening, make no mistake, and the mainstream media is going around. Last week in Austin, a mainstream media station went out and had reporters on the street asking, where will terrorists strike next? They're introducing this into the psychology. They're creating a new cosmology of fear and preparing people for terrorism. And I just want to warn you one more time. State-sponsored terrorism is the #1 brand worldwide. Oklahoma City was terrorism. What happened right here where I'm standing in Waco back in 1993 on April 19th was state-sponsored terrorism. It was a test to see if you'd lay down. And I'm telling you something, they're taken back now because their propaganda and their lies worked for a while, but you see that the polls are changing. More and more people are waking up to what's happening. So I want to challenge you to talk to 10 people a week, get them to see Waco Rules of Engagement. I have nothing to do with this documentary, but it's so incredibly powerful. You have got to get this and get it into congressmen's hands, your friends' hands, judges in your local cities, because this can be a revelation to the people of America, to the people that just want to be pragmatic, to the people that are just relativists and don't care as long as tyranny doesn't come knocking on their door. And I'll just paraphrase this. We've all heard the famous quotes and statements. When they came for the Jews, they didn't come for me, so I left it alone. When they came for the Catholics, when they came for all these different groups, I stayed there. And finally, when they came for me, there was nobody left to stand up for me. This is the real deal. This is human history. This is not some foggy conspiracy theory. I have to tell you, 4 years ago, I thought what happened at Waco was wrong. But I thought, I believed a little bit of the propaganda. I thought, well, you know, this and that. And the more I studied this, the more I found out it's worse than even what Waco Rules of Engagement or Day 51 had to offer. And that's why I'm glad that they're coming out with a new documentary, because this is what it's going to take. It's going to take information to the public. Information is power. So stop reacting and start acting and stand up against this police state, or we're going into 100% taxation, 100% tyranny. And just because it's packaged sweetly and has a nice, flashy exterior, the interior is barbed wire and pure slavery. Thank you all for being here.
Should we...